Ever just find yourself staring out the window and like picturing Earth millions of years ago?
Yeah.
Totally different continents, weird creatures everywhere.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thought, isn't it?
Totally. And that's exactly where we're headed today, diving into that world. Specifically, the epic journey of our ancestors, how they went from those early primates to, well, us.
Right, and we've got an awesome guide for this deep dive, this article, The Emergence of Humanity, from Australopithecus to Homo Sapiens. And it's not just like fixated on humans, it's the whole story of how we came to be, the whole intricate thing.
I like that, the whole intricate thing, because it is. I mean, it's one thing to hear survival of the fittest, but this article, it like lays out the specifics, starting with, well, a group we've all heard of, Australopithecus. They were walking upright over 4 million years ago. That's way before tools were even a thing, right?
Yeah, you're right. It's a detail that often slips people's minds. We jump to tools as this hallmark of being human, but being bipedal. Walking on 2 legs, that was a huge development and way earlier.
It's like the original upgrade. Like instead of swinging through trees, you're standing up. Suddenly you can see predators coming, you can carry food. It's not even just walking, it's what that unlocks.
100%. Freeing up the hands, it was a game changer for interacting with the environment, which of course brings us to tools. So Australopithecus, they might not have been crafting them, but that bipedal lifestyle, it set the stage.
Exactly. Which brings us to Homo habilis, our tool-making ancestors. What I thought was really interesting from the article was that, these weren't just random rocks, they were crafting them for specific purposes.
And the implications of that are massive.
Yeah.
The article talks about how even those simple stone tools, they completely changed their diet. More meat, getting marrow out of bones, and what does that lead to? Bigger brains. It's like this feedback loop.
It makes you realize every little step in evolution has these ripple effects, you know what I mean? It's not the tool itself, but everything it changes.
That's it. That's evolution for you. And speaking of changes, Homo erectus, they take things up a notch. They master fire, and it's not just about surviving anymore, it's about thriving.
I can practically smell the prehistoric barbecue. But seriously, to be able to control fire, that's warmth, that's protection, it's even light, they pushed back the darkness, literally.
Exactly, yeah. The article really emphasizes how fire, it revolutionized everything. They could live in colder places, and get this, they could migrate out of Africa. Imagine that for a second, that journey, those challenges, totally new landscapes.
Talk about pioneers. But okay, I have to ask about Neanderthals. They get this rap as like our less evolved cousins, but the article, it paints a different picture, doesn't it?
It really does. They're always seen as these like brutish cavemen. But research, it shows they were surprisingly sophisticated. Like, okay, they were skilled hunters, we might expect that, but they took care of their sick and injured.
And that suggests what? Empathy, social bonding. It flips the script on that Neanderthal stereotype.
For sure, and there's more. The article even mentions potential burial rituals, which, if you think about it, suggests symbolic thought, maybe even a belief in the afterlife.
Whoa. Okay, that makes you wonder, how different were we really? And speaking of different, but not that different, we've got their DNA in us, right? Like right now. It's a real, tangible link to these, fascinating beings that we used to think were so far removed.
Yeah, it really makes you think. And it just reminds you that human evolution wasn't this straight line. More like a branching tree, different groups interacting, sometimes interbreeding. But while Neanderthals, they were doing their thing, another lineage was coming up, one with a unique set of capabilities, and those would go on to define us Homo sapiens.
Which brings us to .us. So what were those unique capabilities? Was it just bigger brains?
Brain size is part of it, for sure. But the real game changer, it was how those brains worked. Homo sapiens, they developed something truly remarkable. Symbolic thinking.
Okay, so break that down. What does that actually mean?
Basically, it's the ability to represent things with symbols. Sure. Language, art, music even. And that. It opened a whole new world for communication and creativity and connection.
And we see that in those cave paintings from the article, right? Yeah. It's not just drawing on the walls, it's expressing, it's telling stories. They're sharing their world through symbols.
Precisely. Those paintings, they're like a window into how our ancestors thought. And it shows a level of abstract thought that we just hadn't seen before. Right. And that's what let them make these complex societies, pass on knowledge, and, really shape the world around them.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. From making those simple tools to creating art that we still connect with today, that's That's quite a leap. It really is, like unlocking a whole secret language.
Yeah.
But hold on, going back to what you said about shaping the world, that almost sounds like, I don't know, kind of a double-edged sword, right? We've done incredible things, but we've also kind of made some messes along the way.
You're absolutely right. It's easy to get caught up in the progress and forget about the downsides. And the article acknowledges that, it mentions how Homo sapiens, for all our good points, we've had a hand in some extinctions.
Yeah, other hominid species, even big animals.
Exactly. Whether it was competing for resources or, who knows, maybe even conflict, our impact on the planet, it kept growing.
It makes you think, our ancestors, they faced harsh climates, predators, not a lot of resources. Those were huge hurdles. So did they overcome them, or is it more like they just adapted really well?
Wow, that's a really good question. And it makes you think about what this whole deep dive is really saying, doesn't it? It wasn't always about conquering nature, was it? More like learning to live within the rules, even if they, even if they push those rules further than anyone else. And that adaptation, that's in our blood now.
It's kind of amazing to think about, isn't it? Like that drive to survive, to not just exist, but really thrive. That's not just us being special. It's millions of years of evolution, all those generations before us.
That's it. And just like they adapted, they also shaped things. The article, it talks about how when Homo sapiens spread out certain megafauna, they started disappearing. Now, nobody's totally sure how much we caused that, but it shows we have an impact, that's for sure.
So we're not just shaped by our environment, we're shaping IT too, right? For better or worse. And that's what makes this so important, I think. Understanding evolution, it's not some history lesson, it's about us right now.
Right. Knowing where we came from, what those early humans had to deal with, how they adapted. It's like, it's like a cheat sheet for understanding how we act now. Take cooperation, for example. There's no way they would survive without it.
They needed each other to hunt, to protect themselves, even just to raise their kids, right?
Exactly. Those social bonds, that instinct to work together, it's deep down in us.
So even though we think of ourselves as individuals, we're hardwired to connect, to be part of something bigger. It's like evolution is telling us, hey, you're not supposed to go it alone.
Exactly. And that's even more important now with what we're facing. Climate change, inequality, resources running out. These aren't just problems. They're tied into our whole evolutionary story.
It's like we're at this point where we need that same ingenuity, that same teamwork that let our ancestors thrive, but on a global scale. It's like we inherited this amazing toolkit, right? We can walk, we can talk, build things, think, work together. But it's almost like like a little warning label came with it too.
Yeah, I like that. Because we do have this incredible power to create, but also to destroy, And the article, it kind of hints at that, this idea that understanding our past, it's not just, yay, look what we've done. It's also about, admitting we have a responsibility now.
Okay, so how do we balance that then? We know we can do great things and, not so great things. So how does knowing about the past help us make better choices going forward?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And I don't think the article pretends to have all the answers. But it does say one really important thing. It says that all our potential, our ability to adapt, to come up with new stuff, it's strongest when we have a shared purpose, when we realize we're in this together. Just like those early humans.
Right, like all those stories of them hunting together, building shelters, even just teaching each other things. They had to work together or nobody survives, right? It wasn't just about one person, it was the whole group.
Exactly. And in a way, isn't that what we're doing now, but on a way bigger scale? Instead of little groups of hunter-gatherers, it's the whole planet. And those challenges, climate change, those are things no single country can fix.
Wow. It's kind of poetic when you think about it that way. Millions of years, and here we are. And maybe, just maybe, knowing that we're all connected, that we came from the same place, maybe that's what'll help us fix these huge problems.
It's a humbling thought, that's for sure. And it's something I keep coming back to after this deep dive. We aren't separate from nature. We're a part of it, shaped by it. And we're still changing, even now. Every choice we make, it doesn't just affect us, it echoes out. It creates the world future generations will inherit.
Makes you think about all those ancient footprints a little differently, doesn't it? Like we're carrying this torch, this spark of life that's been passed down for so long, and now it's our turn to decide what to do with it. This has been incredible, by the way, from those first steps to fire, to making art, language, the whole thing. What a story.
It really is. And the best part, it's not over yet. What will our chapter look like? What will people in the future look back on and be amazed by?
That's what I love about these deep dives. More questions and answers, but also a sense of, I don't know, possibility. Like there's still so much we can do. So to everyone listening, if you're as fascinated by all this as we are, we've got links in the show notes, more info, videos, all sorts of cool stuff. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those questions, and stay curious.